Welcome to Tibet This Week, where we bring you a weekly news edition on His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Tibet, and the Central Tibetan Administration. These are the headlines. Speaker Khenpo's Namkyi attends the 11th seminar of Ngagyur Nyingma tradition. Sikyong Tsering continues engagement in Washington, D.C. post-Mexico visit. Tibetan Supreme Justice Commissioner attends Norbulingka Festival. Former Tibetan political prisoner Namkyi urges Tibetans to stand united. Taiwan's Ministry of Culture invites Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts for cultural performance. Representative Rigzin Genkhang attends 30th founding anniversary of Les Amis du Tibet in Luxembourg. Tibet House Japan concludes Tibetan language class. Weekly Lookout, Year of Compassion. Last Thursday, Speaker Khenpo's Namkyi of the Tibetan Parliament in Exile attended the 11th seminar on the distinct view and philosophy of the Ngagyur Nyingma tradition held in Belikopi, Karnataka. Speaker, in his address at the gathering, expressed gratitude to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the revered religious figures, for their tireless contribution in spreading Buddhism across the world, scored the three aspects of Buddhism: Buddhist science, Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist religion, that one needs to understand and relate accordingly. This Wednesday, Sikyong Tsering of the Central Tibetan Administration addressed the members of the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. Sikyong highlighted China's expanding trade worldwide and urged leaders to prioritize long-term impact while engaging in trade relations with China. On Sino-Tibet relations, Sikyong said, hopeful, there is need for a leader with common sense in Chinese Communist Party to see real progress. When questioned what will happen to Tibet when His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama passes, he underscored that the event will be a major setback, but His Holiness, being a visionary leader and a true democrat, has prepared the Tibetans to carry on without him.
Considering the importance, the geographical, strategic importance of Tibet, we feel that if there is a sensible leader, a Chinese leader with common sense, then it's the easiest to resolve, because His Holiness is not asking for separation from China, not seeking independence, but willing to live within the framework of the Chinese constitution. But unfortunately, the response from the Chinese side has not been positive so far. As I mentioned, it has become the biggest open-air prison in the world, and there is no human rights whatsoever. It's more like George Orwell's 1984 coming into reality, where the state surveils and controls the population. And between 2009 to 2022, 157 Tibetans have self-immolated, hoping against hope that the Chinese government will pay some attention to their plight, or the international community will come to their rescue. But unfortunately, particularly under President Xi Jinping, since he came into power, the whole policy is directed towards eliminating the identity of the nationalities, including Tibetans.
Tsering began his official engagements in Washington, D.C. with a series of meetings with members of Congress and Senate committee to discuss continued U.S. support for Tibetan programs. In separate meetings, Sikyong met with Martin Thumel, Deputy Head of Mission at the German Embassy in Washington, D.C., and Senator Dan Sullivan, Chair of the Congressional Executive Commission on China at the Senator's office, each of whom expressed nuanced understanding of the Tibetan cause. Sikyong also sat down for an interview with James Himberger, Managing Editor of the National Interest at the Office of Tibet, D.C. Before departing for Mexico to Washington, D.C., Sikyong met and interacted with state deputies, faculty and students, and multiple media personnel to expand support for Tibet. Yishubangmo, Tibetan Supreme Justice Commissioner, along with Justice Commissioners Tsering and Tawapyungi, attended Norbulingka's festival this weekend. Kepcheling Rinpoche graced the event as chief guest with several other guests. The two-day festival was held as part of their effort to preserve and promote Tibetan culture and tradition. It featured live demonstrations of wood carvers and painters, sculptors, Thangka painters and tailors working in real time, showcasing the rich arts and cultural heritage of Tibet. Also on display were a photo exhibition by the Tibet Museum, Central Tibetan Administration, on life and achievements of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and an information desk voluntary Tibet advocacy group. Under the coordination of the Office of Tibet DC, the former political prisoner Namkyi visited Tibetan communities in several locations, including Washington, D.C., California, Portland, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Chicago. Urging the Tibetans to stay united and follow His Holiness the Dalai Lama's advice, Namkyi shared first-hand accounts of torture she suffered in prison, spoke of self-immolators she personally knew, and of Tibetans who continue to endure torture and persecution in Tibet under the Chinese government. Jointly organized by Taiwan's Ministry of Culture and the Office of Tibet Taiwan, the members of the Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts performed extensively in Taiwan's major cities, drawing significant attention and interest from the non-Tibetans towards Tibetan culture. The tour began with a press conference at the Taiwan Traditional Theatre Center, where director Kao Yu-chen from the Ministry of Culture Center highlighted cultural and spiritual significance of Tepa's visit. Artists of Tepa performed in 8 different locations and was attended by major government and non-governmental personalities. This Monday, Representative Rigzin Genkhang of the Office of Tibet Brussels attended the 30th founding anniversary of Les Amis du Tibet, a long-standing support group of Tibet. Representative Rigzin Genkhang, in her address, appreciated the Foundation's role in providing quality education, health, and the preservation of Tibetan culture in the Tibetan community and keeping alive the values and vision of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Last Saturday, Tibet House, Japan concluded their 3-month Tibetan language class. Were designed to teach Tibetan language and introduce Tibetan history and culture to natives and non-Tibetans interested in learning. As part of the Year of Compassion celebration, Department of Education, Central Tibetan Administration launched 2 nursery rhymes titled His Holiness and His Family and May His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama Live Long. The department also launched first 2 episodes of a series titled His Holiness the Dalai Lama's 10 Teachings. All of their contents are available to consume on their official YouTube page, Shirik Video. The Norbulingka Tibetan Settlement Office, in collaboration with Indo-Tibet Friendship Society, Bandra Chapter, a photo exhibition on the life and achievements of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In Rome, Italy, several Tibet support groups collectively organized the screening of Wisdom of Happiness, a documentary on His Holiness the Dalai Lama, in Cinema Barberini. That is all for this week's edition of Tibet This Week. See you in the next one.